Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today for our webinar. I'm Pankaj Bagzai, Senior Manager of Marketing at Impetus Technologies, and I'm your host and MC for today's session. Our webinar today is about accelerating the journey from Netezza to a big data platform. During this webinar today, we'll be demonstrating a way to lift, shift, and transform Netezza workloads to big data automatically. And this will be done using the industry's first automated workload migration engine. You will learn how automation is helping the modernization journey for the data warehouses. Our expert panel will share some of the best practices for migrating Netezza workloads to big data. This will be an interactive session followed by Q&A. And if you have any questions during the presentation, please send them to the Q&A panel of your WebEx console. We'll be happy to bring them up during the presentation or at the end during the Q&A session. Now, without any delay, let me introduce our speakers for today. Venkat Chakravarti. Venkat is the VP of Modern Data Architecture Practice at Impetus. He has over 25 years of industry experience in big data analytics, data warehousing, ETL, and business intelligence space. He's a trusted leader for collaborating with CIOs of Fortune 500 companies and acts as a business architect and strategist to help gain new business insights through a better understanding of their data. Our next speaker is Dhirendra Sinha. He's the product manager for Data Warehouse Modernization Solution at Impetus. He's responsible for analyzing our customers' business challenges and mapping them to provide a secure, scalable, and robust solution. He has extensive experience in big data technologies and advanced analytics, including BI, Hadoop, RDBMS, and machine learning. Now, before I invite Venkat for the presentation, I'd like to quickly start a poll for our audience. The poll will remain open for the first few minutes as we go through today's session. Okay, Venkat, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Pankaj. Thank you all for joining. As Pankaj said, I am the leader of the Modern Data Architecture Practice at Impetus. In this role, I am the business owner of the accelerator solution we will be discussing during this session. IBM announced last year that it was ending Netezza support. Some of the critical dates are mentioned on the slide, and June 30th, 2019 is when all standard support will stop. IBM will still have specific extended support for a select set of customers. Many organizations are in the process of identifying what path forward should be. Still, we are hearing customers acquiring remaining inventory even when they know end of support is coming. This session will help you in the decision-making process. As you all know, Netezza has been a platform that you've been using for more than a decade in many cases. The idea of tossing it to the side for something else is scary and highly risky. You have mission-critical applications that are running and happy business units. The reality is that while change is risky, you can take this opportunity to move to a best-of-breed big data solution, whether on-prem or in the cloud. Many of our clients and prospects have started down this path. Today, we will be talking about these options. We will look at the key challenges and the alternatives you have. We will also look into the risks and the challenges you will see when migrating. We will introduce the Impetus solution to address these challenges and simplify your world. After that, my colleague Dhiren Sinha will jump into a demo and show you how it is being done within our solution. We will do a debrief after that and then get into Q&A. We already mentioned moving from Netezza is risky. But what is even more risky is that what might happen if you don't migrate. We will address 4 major categories in this. Number 1, updates. You will lose critical, timely updates, patches, and bug fixes. Because IBM is not actively looking for this, you have to report it and they will fix it. Think about the impact this could have on your IT operation and your business user experience. Because in many cases, we are talking about reports and dashboard application your organization uses to run their businesses. Number 2, security. We have known what happens when vulnerabilities exist. Hackers won't stop when you're using a legacy software or an end-of-life solution. In fact, that is when your customer data will be mostly vulnerable. 3, compliance is another critical factor that operations have to address. There will always be an exception scenario till you are on Netezza to manage for them. As for the number 4, platform for modernization. Guess what? There will be no modernization on the current version. You may get IBM to do a few things, but it will not be proactive. So what are the alternatives? There are commercial and open source alternatives. You can choose to follow the IBM's new offering and assistance in migrating to the new platform. Or you may even choose to migrate to other traditional relational databases like Oracle and Teradata and continue your process. There is a third option, and that is open source. What we have seen with our customers and prospects is they are taking this as an opportunity to modernize their analytical platform, expanding their capabilities with open source and big data. Many of them are following a hybrid model. And of course, there is a cost implications to all of this. The cost summary data shown graphically on this slide is the result of our experience working on a number of migration projects. Based on this field experience, we have developed an ROI calculator that we can use to tailor a cost comparison model for your specific situation, irrespective of where you are in the journey of this migration. As you can see, there is a large potential for significant cost savings. Now I'm going to ask Pankaj to announce the result of the polls we conducted. Pankaj, over to you.
Thanks, Venkat. I'll quickly go ahead and close the poll. The results are getting in. It's just streaming in the results now. A few more seconds. Yeah. So you can see the results on the screen now. Obviously, this being a very Netezza specific subject that we are covering today, 82% of the audience would like to offload or optimize Netezza workloads. 18% also have Teradata, 23% have Oracle, and about 5 to 10% have others. On the second question, on where the audience is with respect to the migration journey. 41%, upwards of 41% are saying that they've just started evaluating big data or cloud options for migration. And about 23 to 18, 23, close to 40% again are in advanced stages. Either they are in the process or they have already migrated to an ADW to the big data environment. So very interesting results. Venkat, over to you for further comments.
Thank you, Pankaj. So what we are going to be showing today for Netezza, I know some of you have not just have Netezza, you have other RDBMS like Teradata, Oracle, SQL Server, and etc. Our solution works for all of your RDBMSs, and if you want to migrate to the big data. So continuing on the Netezza side. So first, we said it is risky enough that you need to migrate from Netezza, and then Gartner throws out a quote like this: 83% of data migration projects fail or exceed their budgets and schedule. The reality is you can't just make the decision to go to a big data platform, snap your fingers, and it is done. We have seen that some companies don't even know where to start. They don't have a full picture of what is inside their EDW or their data mart because it contains business logic that has been built over the last 10 to 15 years. Oftentimes, we see a lack of understanding because people who have worked on it have either moved up or out of the organization, and the knowledge was left with the person who is no more in that position. In many cases, there is little or limited documentation. Here are some of the challenges that we have seen and how we mitigate the same. Application SLAs. Users expect certain critical SLAs. Success of migration depends on ensuring expected SLAs are met end-to-end. Impetus solution addresses this through their assessment module, where schema optimization and performance optimization metrics are identified at the very beginning and implemented throughout the project. During the demo, Dhiren will walk you through some of this process. Impetus will guarantee the SLAs as long as the cluster sizes is comparable. The next one, data corruption. There are certain data types like the decimal precision, uppercase, lowercase, that don't translate exactly in the big data, leading to data corruption. Impetus automated migration model takes care of these issues. Application stability. There is a strong risk when applications migrate from traditional data warehouses to big data, they will perform and are stable the same way users are used to. Our patent pending translation engine migrates the business logic embedded in the Netezza implementation, thereby ensuring stability of the migrated code. We stand behind our migration. We migrate ANSI SQL in Netezza to Spark SQL and HiveQL, and scripts to equivalent scripts on the big data. This allows current development and support resources to easily transition to the new environment, thereby rendering training to a minimal so that folks are able to support and continue to do development in the new environment. So this picture actually tells you of our legacy Netezza implementation. Source system goes through standard ETL process using Netezza, native Netezza tools or ETL tools like DataStage, Informatica into the data warehouse, and users do reporting, mining, and analytics. My colleague Dhiren will next walk you through the Impetus process of migration and a demo that will illustrate the same. Dhiren Sinha, please continue.
Thank you, Venkat, for setting up the context and outlining the challenges and opportunities that lies ahead. Folks, on this slide, what you see is an architecture of Impetus workload migration solution. Your entire Netezza workload, architecture of which Venkat talked about in the last slide, can be migrated to big data platform using our unique 4-click paradigm approach, which is assess, migrate, validate, and execute. Let me talk about the first one over here, which is assessment. So this is the initial step where our engine automatically profiles your current workload, identifies the patterns, and recommends the offloadable queries and entities. Second step in the process is migrate. In this step, the actual shifting of data, metadata, and other entities happen. Here it takes all the information, or I would rather say all the recommendations that we gathered from the assessment stage. The differentiating factor in this solution is the automated logic translation engine, which Venkat also pointed out a couple of minutes back. It translates your legacy code to big data compatible scripts. The next step is validate, where we ensure data and metadata equivalence between the source and the target. And finally, the last step is execute. In this step, we execute the transform script onto big data platform and load your prepared data back to EDW. So now, folks, I'll be taking you through a live product demo of Impetus workload migration solution, and I'll walk you through all the 4 steps that I talked about and explain how we are helping our customer in their migration journey. In this demo, I plan to show you assessment of EDW environment, then the step for automated migration that includes schema and data migration, translation of legacy code, and finally validation of executed scripts. So let's get started. Let me quickly share my application. So this is the home screen which appears right after you log into the application. It shows an overview of your EDW workloads. Now, one of the questions that is asked frequently is, how do we create an assessment like this? And do we need an access to your EDW directly? The answer to that is no. Here you can simply upload your query log and the rest will happen automatically. To explain this in a simple way, here I have created a Netezza assessment by uploading the query log, which contains all the resource intensive and low performing queries. So this is our assessment dashboard. What you see over here is that application has analyzed the uploaded query log and has recommended some crucial and relevant information about the current workload. There were close to 4,500 queries that the system analyzed, out of which close to 2,000 were unique. We can see over here the different entity type, the different query type. It also profiled the query construct, highlighting the order by, group by, and join condition over here. I can drill down in any of these areas for more detailed information. Below it, you can see some pretty important and useful graph. So you can see the CPU utilization over here, the IO utilization. We have the application-wise resource utilization and user-wise resource utilization as well. These parameters often help us to understand how the platform has been utilized and help us to plan better. If I want, I can further expand this graph to view the detailed information about this application-wise resource utilization. I can see that this particular application, which is there on the top, is utilizing the most of the resources and execution time. And this is an ideal candidate for migration onto big data platform. Now let me quickly go back to the highlight page once again. Now on the recommendation side, what I also wanted to talk about is that out of all the unique queries that the system analyzed, 2,215 queries are recommended for offloading with all the tables onto the big data platform. Let me now drill down further to show you details regarding this queries which the system has analyzed. So over here you can see the distribution of this query based on different parameters. There is cost-wise distribution based on disk utilization, application-wise distribution, and based on query complexity as well. Then further, if you want to see stats against each of these unique query, you just need to click on this and you can see stats around it. Now you have an option to select the query engine of your choice. We support both Hive and Spark over here. Mostly all the queries can be executed both on Spark and on Hive, except a few which needs little bit of re-engineering so that it can run on Spark. So quickly moving ahead, we have the application-wise recommendation summary over here. Now, if I click on application-wise recommendation summary, I am taken to the analysis tab where you can see in-depth analysis. Now, data is present in graphical format as well, and you can toggle at any point of time to see the same information in form of intuitive graphs. Folks, there are a couple of other tabs as well. So you can see user-wise resource utilization, which user is utilizing maximum resources. If you want to dig deep, you can see stats around each of the queries that the table has analyzed, the queries which the system has analyzed, the tables which was analyzed by our application, the different statement types, and the query constructs. So in a nutshell, assessment provides a complete synopsis of your current workload. Once you are done analyzing your assessment and you are fully satisfied with it, you can automatically create your migration pipeline which will be executed. You just need to configure the source and target, and then you are good to go with this. Now, assessment of current workload is a great starting point for organizations, enabling them to understand what lies in their enterprise data warehouse and help them generate a business case for their data warehouse offload program. Now, let me go to the pipeline view and show you how a pre-run Netezza pipeline looks like, which has its different stages configured automatically. So I'll open this draft pipeline, which hasn't been executed yet. Let me quickly jump on that pipeline once again. Yep, here it is. So this is draft Netezza pipeline which hasn't been executed. Now this gives ability to drive a lot of automation and acceleration in the migration process. So here on the canvas, you can see the different stages. The system gives the flexibility to create your own pipeline as per your requirement from scratch on the canvas, configuring different stages. Here we have the Netezza data source, which is configured over here. Then we have Spark, which is configured as the target. Then we have the different stages over here, migration, transformation, and execution. Now let me open the migration stage first. In this, you can upload your script and the system will auto-categorize the set of table and views that needs to be migrated based on that. There is this built-in intelligence of the solution which recommends the optimized data model to you on the fly, which is again pretty important when you are migrating to big data ecosystem. Now folks, what I wanted to talk more over here is about this validation. So validation helps you configure rules to make sure that the migration has been done properly. Validation, as you can see, is enabled over here. You can configure from a list of already provided out-of-box functions which are listed over here, or you can write your own query for any entity which will validate data between configured source and target. Now, in the transformation stage, you can configure and upload the script which you want to be translated. System will translate all the uploaded script over in this particular stage. And then finally, in the execution stage, you can execute the transform scripts onto big data platform. So this is how you configure your migration pipeline. And once the configuration is done, we need to simply execute this pipeline. Now let me quickly show you how the reports look like for an executed pipeline. So let me quickly toggle back to the pipeline view over here. I will dig into the history of this Netezza pipeline, which is already executed. And this is the same pipeline which I showed you in draft mode. So here are the check marks which shows that the stages have been executed successfully. So you can see check marks against each of the stages. Let me open the migration stage. So double clicking on it will open the migration report for you. So in this particular report, we will get the set of tables that have been migrated as per the configured script which we uploaded over there. So over here you can see a list of tables which have been migrated onto big data platform. You can also have a look at the table specific validations which I showed to you just now that this have been executed successfully. Now, one of the key highlights of Impetus workload migration solution is its automatic translation engine, which translates the legacy code to big data compatible scripts. So here in the translation report, if I just open this one, we have the set of queries, the original queries and the transform queries over here, which we can see in different windows. Now, this is a simple insert statement on the EDW side, which is pretty straightforward. And this is the transform big data compatible query, which is again, I'm sure most of you will recognize it quite easily. But as we move to statements like update, things starts to become a bit complicated. So let me quickly open an update statement over here. So this is a simple update statement in the relational world. Now I will open the big data compatible query of that. So here it is the big data compatible query where you can see there are a lot of changes and logic happening at the background of the automated translation engine, which is making sure that these queries of the relational world are getting transformed and can run in a high performance manner in the big data ecosystem. Another important point is that the system takes care of the data store specific custom UDF as well. As in some cases in the relational world, there is not one-to-one equivalent of that capability in the big data ecosystem. So let me quickly show one query which contains a custom UDF as well. And as you can see, there is a tick mark over here against the UDF column. If I open this one, this contains a custom UDF called extract. And if I look at the big data compatible query, this has been translated successfully. Now for the queries which require manual intervention, you can edit it in an interface and run your pipeline. So this is pretty much on the transformation side. Now in the execution report, you can check whether the transform scripts onto big data platform are successful or not. You can see the different rules over here and the different table specific validations that you would have applied. You can just have a cross check of that. So this is what specifically I wanted to cover in today's Netezza migration demo to big data platform. Now let me quickly summarize the demo for you. I presented you the assessment of Netezza environment to identify offloadable queries and entities, how pipeline drive an automation process, and how different operations in an automated migration are there. Also, how the converted scripts that are part of automated pipeline would move to your big data platform. That's also we have seen over here. Now let me quickly jump back to the presentation. All right. So if you see, this is the current state of Netezza, where through different schedulers, Netezza script is getting executed and the data is getting populated in the RDBMS system, which is finally used for reporting. And then it is consumed by your downstream systems as well. Now with the Impetus workload migration, all the stored procedure and shell scripts are converted to big data compatible code with no dependency or zero lock-in. And this is the operational view of post-migration, where you can see the schedulers, where you can utilize any scheduler, in fact, and use the Spark's processing capability on the new environment. So basically, nothing changes other than the increased processing capability that comes with Spark. Now let us talk about some of the key takeaways of it. So Impetus workload migration solution simplifies and accelerates your migration by automated profiling and data-driven assessment. The automated logic translation engine, which is built after years of successful migration, quickly and automatically translates the legacy code. It provides you the flexibility to choose the target engine of your choice. As I showed you, you can have Spark, you can have Hive if you want to. It also suggests an optimized data model, and finally a robust validation framework that ensures successful migration. And to sum everything, the value we deliver is 50% cost reduction compared to manual migration. It is 100% reliable, 100% enterprise ready, and portable across big data and cloud platform. With this, let me hand it over to Pankaj now. Pankaj, over to you.
Thank you, Dhirendra. Before we go ahead in the session and take some questions now, I'd like to quickly request our audience to rate their webinar experience and provide their feedback and comments. I'll open the feedback poll here, and we'll move into the Q&A section of this session. I'd also like to share with our audience that we are sponsoring and exhibiting in the two big events coming up in March of this year. We are a premier sponsor at Gartner Data and Analytics Summit in Grapevine, Texas, and at Strata Data Conference in San Jose. The expert team of Impetus will be available at both these shows, and we'll be happy to discuss your business requirements and priorities. We look forward to seeing you there. So I'll quickly now go to the questions. For the audience sake, you can send in your questions using the chat or the Q&A panel. We have already received a few questions. The first question that we have is, many of us know high performance may not be likely to compare with the Netezza performance. So one of the audience members would like to know, how can you manage to have open source query performance match or exceed the Netezza performance on a similar amount of hardware? Venkat, can you take that one?
Sure. So to start with, we are not only doing Hive, right? Our default would be a Spark SQL, so it will be running on a Spark engine, which has got a better performance than Hive. Also, as we do our assessment, we identify schemas and also realize what indexing and what partitioning and things like that currently Netezza is using, so that when we move those schemas into the big data platform, we also introduce the partitioning technology of big data and the bucketing technology. We also identified those schemas that have to be potentially refactored in some form or fashion to ensure that the queries that are running against them on Netezza would get the same performance on the big data platform. What we also do is when we do this, depending upon the workloads that you're using during our ROI calculator and our recommendation to the clients, we can actually come up with the cluster size that will meet these kind of workloads so that we do a comprehensive end-to-end cluster sizing. And in cases where you are using a distro like Hortonworks or Cloudera or MapR, we'll work with them to ensure that your cluster is properly configured, not just the number of nodes, but also the memory size and things like this. And these workloads and this assessment results all play into that. And if you need further detailed answers on this, we will be more than glad to work with you to do a ROI calculation as well as an assessment of what cluster size you need moving forward. Pankaj?
Thank you, Venkat. Another audience member would like to know, can you clarify what you meant by data stage workload? Is it SQL triggered in Netezza by data stage or something else?
So I'll go ahead and take this also, Pankaj. So what we have seen is there are multiple ways people use ETL tool, whether it is data stage, Informatica. Ab initio is slightly different, but everyone uses, we support all three of them. What we have seen is either people use the data stage to bring data in and do the processing in the middle tier, or they do a push down type of a technology where they initiate SQL from Netezza. Either case, we can do both of them. We can take, in the case of data stage, we can extract the workflows as XML. And if you still want to continue to use data stage in the big data environment, we can just convert the ANSI SQL that is embedded in that workflow into Spark SQL/HighQL and and push it back into the data stage workflow so that you can continue to use data stage. Or if you don't want to use data stage, we can take the XML portion of that and convert that into scripts on the big data environment. As always, if you need further details on that, we will be more than glad to sit down and do a working session with you.
Okay, thank you. The next question we have, I think Venkat, you can take this one also. Are the schemas from the source to the Hadoop target one for one, or they are denormalized or otherwise changed?
So here, the way we start it is when we start the schema migration, it is a one-to-one schema migration. But there are some caveats to that. First thing is there are certain data types that don't actually transform exactly the same way that is in Netezza to the big data. So we do some transformations there. And as I earlier said for a previous question, we actually identify the schema and the queries that run against the schema. So we do identify bucketing and partitioning strategies upfront. And then there are certain queries that are running against the schema where the SLAs, and we know this because we look into your logs on how long it takes on the Netezza platform, we may categorize them and identify them for refactoring. In some cases, it could be denormalization. In some cases, it could be aggregations on top of base tables.
Okay, thank you. Next one, I think Virendra from the demo. Is this the solution that you demoed? Is this for migration only? And what about point forward once the migration is complete? Example, the conversion of ETL jobs.
Right, Pankaj. So very good question, I guess. So we do take care of logic translation as well, as you saw in the demo right now. Other than that, for ETL job conversion, which is specifically pointed out over here, we do that as well. We do it for ab initio specifically and typically targeting other ETL tool as well.
Okay, all right, thank you. Do you also support pure data for operational analytics? I think IBM, DB2, MPP, appliance model, etc. That's the question. Next question, Venkat or Virendra. Venkat, maybe you can answer that.
We support all types of relational environments. So if you have a relational database, we will support whether it is on DB2, whichever pure data platform or not. We will be able to support that. Again, as we said that we have a translation engine which can identify the patterns that you're using on your current environment and translate them into the Spark HiveQL. So we do that. We also, in addition to that, we also have our translation engine support certain reports like Oracle web reports and convert them into Tableau. So all we are looking at is input patterns that can be translated to output patterns.
Okay, all right, thank you. Next one says that it was probably clear that the service includes the assessment, analysis, and the recommendation of clusters. Or do you also convert SPs used in MZ? I don't know what SP stands for here. Virendra, maybe you could take that.
Right, Pankaj. I guess it is trying to point out about the stored procedures which are used in Netezza. So definitely we do assessment where we do analyze our current workload, what exactly lies in the EDW environment. That's one part of it where we do the entire assessment, and then based on that, we prepare our migration pipeline where we do the translation as well, which includes the stored procedure as well. So we do translate them as. Yep.
Okay. There's another question about there is a MicroStrategy reporting need in Netezza. What is the equivalent reporting tool recommendation in big data for when one offloads Netezza to big data?
Pankaj, you want me to take this or Dhiren?
Yeah, sure. Venkat, go ahead, please.
So as far as MicroStrategy is concerned, I don't want to talk. We are agnostic from a BI reporting stuff. So let me be very clear about that. MicroStrategy has a roadmap for how it will run on MicroStrategy on big data. Because you're asking this question, I'm assuming that you are not wanting to continue with MicroStrategy on the big data. What we have seen with our customers is that most of them have been using Tableau as a tool on the BI side, but we would have to really look into your consumption query workloads to really say, is Tableau the right tool for you to move forward?
Okay, all right. Another question is about the solution. What percentage does the solution help achieve? What percentage automation do you get for Netezza from the solution?
So it will be out of the box anywhere from 70 to 80% automation is what we achieve. Then as a part of our process, if there are recurring patterns appearing within your code, we will see if those needs to be added to the translation engine. We have sophisticated, skilled engineers who can do this so that we can increase the automation percentage. So it is if we do these things, typically we start with phase one where we get around 70 to 80%. But as we go into multiple phases, none of these things are done with a big bang approach. We do multiple phases for those so that you can start realizing benefits immediately of moving into the big data. And so as we go ahead, the percentages start increasing.
Okay, thank you.
And just to add to that, Pankaj, like Venkat was mentioning, we do have a repository where we keep on adding the new patterns which we identify in the code, and we go ahead and intelligently build our translation engine and make it more advanced.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. The next one is also related to the product. Do the flows have to be created for each query using the UI, or is there a bulk option to convert everything to a big data version? Virendra?
Maybe I'll be taking this one, Pankaj. So yes, we have the bulk facility available as well. So either you can go ahead and choose the say script of your choice, or you can do a bulk upload of your query as well, which will be translated say based on the whatever queries you have chosen for translation.
Okay. Okay. All right. Another one, technical one. As HDFS is immutable, how do you facilitate updates or inserts and deletes?
So, Pankaj, inserts are very simple. HDFS does facilitate inserts very easily, but updates and deletes are a different question, right? It is in traditional Netezza environment. It is a simple. I update a table with certain conditions and things like that, or I update certain columns within a row with certain conditions or that. Big data space is not conducive to those kind of transactional updates and deletes. How we handle it as a part of the workload migration tool is we bring in certain UDFs that are that actually do exactly what a Netezza optimizer does in the background. So for a single update step within the Netezza, you may give a single update command in Netezza, but Netezza optimizer does a few things behind the scenes. So we have replicated the same thing on this side, and we have created specific user-defined functions that we will bring into bear to do these same keyword functionalities.
Okay, thank you. Another question again related to the product. What do you do with the part of the code or the that doesn't get automated, doesn't get automatically translated? So what do we do with that piece of the code that we cannot automatically migrate or convert?
Right. Maybe I can take this one. So we do have, what we do is that we do whatever queries that we are not able to translate automatically, we do it manually. We have a set of team which is quite equipped in writing the translation code for that. And finally, once that code is being written, we upload it back into the migration pipeline and re-execute our pipeline, which again facilitates the entire migration process.
To add to what Dhiren said, right, we continuously tune our engine to ensure that these patterns or even the smaller things that we do manually are going back in wherever it can be repeated back into the engine, so that we get a higher level of automation. And as Dhiren said, we push this back into the pipeline, not just to make sure that the pipeline can be executed end to end. One of the major factors we bring to bear, even for manually converted code, is the automatic validation that Dhiren explained during the demo. So even though we convert these things manually, a certain percentage of it manually, it goes back to through the overall validation routine. So that is one of the reasons when we say we guarantee the migration, we do that with all of these things. So we will run the same validations in the Netezza platform and on the big data platform, compare the results and certify them, whether they are manually converted or automatically converted. Go ahead, Pankaj.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. I think we've already run out of time. 50 minutes scheduled for this session. There are more questions that are coming in. I'll quickly read through some of those for workloads that use IBM's CDC tools to ingest data into the Netezza. How do you see customers moving into open source tools? Then we also have what about business continuity planning with the workload migration solution? There are questions about how many people have we already helped. Quite a few, I would say, that we have already helped with this solution. Another one says, what's showing up on the slide? Will the assessment offer showing up on the slide now include how many people, how many will be manually converted, and how does the manual conversion by Impetus cost additional or included in the service at no cost? I think we can quickly take that. So I'll quickly repeat. Will the assessment that is offered for free manually, does the manual conversion include the Impetus cost or included in the service?
I can take that. When we give you a pricing, it is based on the number of queries we have to convert, irrespective of whether it is automated or manually converted. So it will be an end-to-end conversion, and the price will include the end-to-end 100% of what we are converting.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. There are more questions coming in, but we'll honor the time that we have signed up for this session. Thank you once again for joining us today for this session. We'll be addressing the remaining questions over email as we have run out of time already. A recording of this webinar will be available on our website very soon, and some of you who would like to know more about us and our solution, please email us your questions at bigdata@impetus.com. Apologize for the email ID not showing up clearly on the screen. It's bigdata@impetus.com, and we'll be making sure that we follow up with you with the answers. On behalf of Impetus Technologies and our presenters today, thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.